All right, we'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Al, roll call, please.
Benson.
Here.
Brunig.
Here.
Sarda.
Here.
Maibaum.
Present.
Minor.
Here.
Moser.
Here.
Schramm.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here.
City Manager Leon.
Here.
City Attorney Denherter.
Here. You have before you the minutes of the regular meeting of April 12th, as well as the special meeting of April 16th. What is your pleasure?
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Is anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? Thank you. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the Commission. Just a couple quick things. Following our work session, we'll have Ross polish up the ordinance, get some draft resolutions. We'll email them out and then ask you, if you do want to talk about them as a group again before you see them for first reading. So we'll get that started. If we have an update on recreational before our next meeting, we'll let you know what our intention is there, but I'm guessing it's going to be a fairly similar process, only we're going to have a lot more things to consider and things to talk to you about. So that's our plan with our medical marijuana ordinance. We got a number of calls today, and over the weekend I was notified that there was some documents that arrived in some people's mailbox regarding the COVID-19 vaccine. And it was made to maybe look as though that the City Health Board had something to do with that information. It certainly did not. So we would request that people not contact Dr. Mary Milroy, whose name and number were listed on that information, that it was not produced by our offices or by our health board and had nothing to do with us. So just want to make the public aware of that. Also, we have a Citywide Cleanup, which is ongoing. We got off to a cold and wet and sort of snowy, rainy start last week, but crews are progressing well. That'll continue through until we get the town, till we get all the way through town with our cleanup. We'll come back to you with an analysis, of course, on the weight that comes in, the tonnage, as we always do, and then later we'll talk about what our plan will be going forward with the citywide cleanup process. Many of you will notice as you drive past the Huther Family Aquatic Center that it's progressing and progressing quickly now. We have received a updated construction schedule from our contractor, and it is aggressive, and the ability for the contractor to get that schedule completed will be, in the words of one city engineer, nip and tuck and tight. But in true City of Yankton fashion, we operate well under nip and tuck and tight. So we do believe that we can have the contractor meet that schedule. We're doing some talking to other departments. The Parks Department Parks and Recreation has a large part in the operational side of this, of course. So we're looking at that very carefully. We plan to make an announcement later on next week about the actual opening dates, and there will be some special events associated with that commissioners will be invited to as well, and we'll make sure we notify you of that. But we just want to make sure that we really do think that all the sort of benchmarks for completion can get accomplished. We're not changing that date. We think since the season is so short, it's really important that we get that facility open. That was the expectation and the promise, and we intend to do everything that we can to make good on that. So happy to answer questions about that, but I think that we can plan on a swimming season as per usual, well, actually better than per usual.
Amy, did you give the date that they're expected to have substantial completion?
Well, substantial completion has come and gone. Substantial completion was April the 16th. I didn't want to say that really necessarily because that kind of, when I heard that, I kind of got a chill up my spine. However, penalties are being invoked, there's penalties associated with not reaching substantial completion, so those are being charged. It is true that some of the spring weather has been inclement and difficult, but that's not a reason now, as we all saw. And today, of course, there was a lot going on up there, and even when I came here this evening, they were still pouring concrete and doing things like that. So we've got a number of great people on it, monitoring construction, and we will continue to impress upon the city engineer and our contractor the expectations. A couple weeks ago now, we had a citywide election, so congratulations to the re-elected and newly elected commissioners. On May 10th, our next meeting, we'll start with this group here. We'll do the adjournment. We will have Ross swear in the newly elected commissioners. We will get you that oath ahead of time so that you can take a look at it if you're newly elected. And then you will do your reorganization. We will plan to roast and then toast Commissioner Sarda, roast him at the commission meeting, and then we'll see if folks would like to get together after the commission meeting. We can toast him. But I think that's in order, given his years of service. And we might invite some friends from past commissions as well. So be good. It's really nice to see everyone. We are live streaming, but because we're inviting people to come to the meeting, we don't have comments on YouTube. So we should be able to move along, Mayor, a little bit more smoothly than we have in the past year. Happy to take any questions that the commission has. Otherwise, I'll let you get to your business.
Any questions for the city manager?
How did Citywide Cleanup tend to go this year from your perspective, or have you heard feedback from the city on that, Amy?
Well, I guess my feedback so far has been, I guess, limited. I did hear today that our crews are noticing the difference in the amount of product in terms of trees and shrubs and things like that, because we do allow the drop-off site location, so people seem to be doing that on their own time, so they've had less of that type of product. We did see a number of people that I think maybe hadn't been out and about and looking around for things, doing that picking or curbside shopping or whatever you want to call it, that we actually don't condone but occurs. I think it's moving along fine. We're, not under the confines of limited staff like we were last year where we were looking for transfer station staff. So it's moving along and progressing nicely. In terms of product amount, I think we're about the same as we've been past years.
Any more questions? All right, we'll move on to public appearances. This is a time when members of the public can address the commission about an item not on tonight's agenda. If you have something, please step to the podium. Seeing no movement in the audience, we will go on to the consent item agenda. Number 1 is establishing May 10th, 2021 as the date for the public hearing on the new retail on-off sale wine and cider license for January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021 from Yankton Inc. For the brewery at 719 Walnut Street. And then number 2 is establishing May 10th, 2021 as the date for the public hearing on the new retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license for July 1st, 21 to June 30th, 2022, again from Yankton Inc. for the 719 Walnut Street location. Is there any discussion on these items from the commission? More importantly, is there a motion to approve?
Move the consent agenda.
Benson, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on these items? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed say nay. And is anyone abstaining? Thank you. Moving on to old business. Number 1 is a health board update. Do we have anything to share tonight, Amy?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the commission. No recommendations from the Health Board, as we are going to now meet monthly. Our next meeting will be Monday, May 10th. I did send out the metrics to the commission today, but for the public's edification, we have 70 active cases, so that goal has not been met. It's hovering around that 60 to 70 active cases. We do have one individual at Avera Sacred Heart Hospital being treated for COVID-19. The percentage of individuals over who have passed the 2 series or both doses of vaccination is 46%, with 10% receiving both doses. That does not include those federal programs either. So that we expect that number to be a bit higher. No new recommendations from the Health Board. Again, the information that people may have received in the mail this weekend did not come from the City of Yankton or the Health Board.
Any commission discussion on this item?
Can I ask, did that appear to be a citywide mailing?
Well, in visiting with the COVID-19 task force team, it seemed to be, although it wasn't received at 2212 Valley Road. So I'm not exactly sure. Oh, some people received it today, apparently. I
Look at the address on it, it comes from Ocheev in Iowa.
It comes from a place in Iowa, so.
Yeah, and people outside city limits have been receiving it too.
And it has Dr. Milroy's personal contact info?
Not personal, I don't think. It's the city manager's number, isn't it?
I didn't look at it closely enough, so I don't
I
know.
believe it's the city manager's number. It's not her personal information.
The
It's,
calls that came in today were requesting that they speak with Dr. Milroy or myself in the Health Board office. So we were explaining, there's an office of the Health Board.
Yeah, this is a group that's based out of Iowa, and they are basically throwing spaghetti at the wall with conspiracy theories and misinformation and seeing what sticks as far as vaccines and COVID cures. Paul Doerr's behind it. People in this community may remember Paul because he helped oppose school opt-outs here in the past.
Should the city do a press release and say, beyond your city manager's report, should we say, ignore these? These are coming in the mail?
I don't think so. I'm certain the Health Board will visit about that. I think sometimes, I get a number of things in my mailbox that I consider are propaganda. But if it pleases the commission, we can certainly do that. I just would caution against taking on every cause in that way.
No. I just, if you're being bombarded with phone calls today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, if they continue to increase, it's probably something to think about.
Sure. I'll have Colleen monitor it. We had some today, but, we call that Monday sometimes.
The fun never ends. Any more discussion? All right, we'll move on to number 2 under old business, and that is consideration of Memorandum 21-68 regarding the public hearing for the transfer of ownership of a retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota Farm wine license for July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. This is from Cheers Bar and Grill LLC to Hayes Enterprises LLC for the business at 310 Walnut Street. What is your pleasure?
So moved. Mosier.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Al, roll call.
Sarda.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Brunig.
Aye.
Benson.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Number 2 under old business is consideration of memorandum 21-71 regarding the public hearing on the request for a special events malt beverage on-off sale license for August 6, 2021 from Utica Hall, and this will be for an event at the 4-H Fairgrounds at 901 Whiting Drive. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Al, roll call, please.
Mybom,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Mosier,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunig,
Aye.
Sarda,
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 4 under old business is consideration of memorandum 21-77 regarding a request from the USBC for the 2021 Women's State Tournament that is being held in Yankton. What is your pleasure? And maybe we need some more information. I'll let Amy
Sure.
provide us some background. Thank
Honorable
you.
Mayor, members of the commission, we were able to get a little more information from our folks with the USBC, and Mr. Palmer is here this evening to visit with you. But we do have more information about the ongoing tournament that the funding request is associated with. It does run from April, early last month, to the beginning of next month, or early this month to beginning of next month. At this point, there were about 100, at the time the memo was put together, 118 teams, 472 bowlers from all over the state. And so they're coming from as far away as Rapid City, Lemon, Aberdeen, Brookings, some staying overnight as well. The bowling folks are estimating that about 75% are staying at least one night. So just anecdotally, they do have knowledge that about 20 Mitchell ladies stayed 2 nights the first 2 weekends of the tournament. And so, you know, we know that they are putting heads in beds in that off season or shoulder season that's important to tourism in our community. So I'll let Mr. Palmer address you to tell you more about the tournament and you can ask him any questions that you might have.
And Amy, the request is for $3,500, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, if you could step to the podium, please. Thank you.
I usually don't need the microphone, but I'll apologize first for not making it to the last meeting. I had a machine breakdown right before the meeting, so Murphy's Law happened at the bowling alley, but I prepared an extra lane today just in case it happens again, so. That's correct. With the request was $3,500, and just to clarify that a little bit, $3,000 of that specifically is what the South Dakota USBC charges Yankton with. They try to put a little pressure on the local association to beef up the prize fund, and that comes wherever they go. Whatever city it is, it's there. And the little bit added money, I know Colleen reached out to Jan Putnam, who is handles almost everything at the local chapter. Other than fundraising, which is usually me, I'm a little more outgoing than Jan on that because it's my fault we have to fundraise. We never had tournaments before we took over the bowling alley, so that's not something normal for them to do. So I generally try to take the brunt of that work. We've provided a shuttle service for all of the ladies to and from their hotels all day, all night, downtown shopping, wherever they want to go. That expense is also added to that, as well as our I should say, my season for fundraising was a little bit shorter because we weren't exactly sure what was going to happen with the COVID, and to be honest, whether we were even going to have the tournament at all. So we didn't get all that done, so we ended up purchasing some prizes and gifts and things. Every woman that came to the tournament received something. And some nice stuff too. We've had some great donors, USD and some of those places who gave some really nice stuff, so that helped a lot. But we did have to go out and purchase some things just to make sure that it was a pleasurable event for everybody. So the extra money covers some of those things. We've got about $750 wrapped up in the shuttle service right now, and we've got one more weekend to go. So it's going to be around $1,000 when that's all said and done. I'd like to give Tom Necker a little shout out there, to be honest. He graciously donated a van or a shuttle bus for us to use. So we're just paying the drivers and gas and oil and taking care of the vehicles. That was really nice from Tom out at Stringers to do that. But other than that, that pretty much covers it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. They're there bowling at 9 o'clock in the morning and they go till 11 o'clock at night. So.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Any questions from the commission for Mr. Palmer while he's at the podium?
So the bowlers have been here since the weekend of April 9th, every weekend?
Yep, what they do typically, and I would say that some of the numbers are probably a little bit higher for staying over. What I've found, the women's tournament's a little bit unique in that they don't want to bowl all 9 games in a row. A lot of the men will do that. So typically what you'll find, or even 6, the men will bowl singles and doubles on Friday night, and they'll bowl team event on Saturday night and maybe go home on Sunday, where the ladies will spread it out. Some do team on one day, singles, doubles on another day, and then the 600 tournament maybe the next day, or, they spread it out a little further. So I think a lot of them, that at least Mike Johnson drove the bus for us this last weekend, and he saw the same ladies a couple nights in a row, so for sure they all stayed 2 nights. But they typically all come in, bowl team event one day and then doubles and singles the next day. And they can come back. They can do they switch 2 people on a team and they can bowl another team event. That's kind of a new thing, but we don't have very many come back for another weekend, but we have had some.
Any more questions? All right. Well, currently we don't have a motion. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the request of $3,500 and be funded through the BBB account.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further commission discussion on this item? All right. Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Al, roll call.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunig.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
Thank
And I
you.
hope the tournament continues to go well. Thank
it'll
you
go
for
great.
your work in hosting it and making sure they have a good time while they're here and helping them get to other places where they can spread the wealth.
Yeah, we've done, the women is actually the best tournament for that. Each one of the tournaments kind of has their little niches where they're at. I know we had some help with the Chamber of Commerce on when the men came to town, and their estimate, just to help the decision or make you feel a little better about your decision, at the men's tournament, the Chamber came with the economic calculators and estimated that tournament brought $1.7 to $2.1 million to town. Now, since then, we've hosted the youth tournament and the high school tournament and now the women's tournament, so your money's going to someplace good. It's helping us out. A lot of that's coming back, and we appreciate it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Take care. All right, we'll move on to new business. And number 1 is consideration of Memorandum 21-59 regarding the tuition reimbursement program for City of Yankton employees. And I think we'll open this with Amy providing some explanation.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the commission. Education remains a value both of myself personally, but also of our organization. And you've expressed to me in recent years that you know that one of our most valuable resources is our human capital and the people that we have working for us. So one of the things we'd like to do and we'd like to do more of is developing employees in their field and in their knowledge, enhancing their skills any way we can. For some time, we have talked about a tuition reimbursement program for employees that are looking at completing secondary or post-secondary degrees or technical degrees or even coursework related to their field. Recently, I worked with Corey Pospisil, our Director of Human Resources and Employee Engagement, Al, Lisa, as well as supervisors from the Yankton Police Department and along with Brad Bees from Community Development to develop a policy for the commission to consider. And I realized today that policy did not get into your packet, but it was uploaded later today. So if you're in your packet, if you didn't download it, you have the latest version with the actual proposed policy in it. If you downloaded your packet, you might want to jump online or open it up again so you can see the actual policy. I'll spend a little more time on the policy than I'd planned to, knowing you didn't have it over the weekend, and I apologize for that. Basically what we've done is looked at other communities' tuition reimbursement programs of cities similar to our size. We worked together to consider each of them and develop the policy. If you approve this, the reimbursement program would be included as an addendum to the personnel policy manual. Therefore, it would apply to everybody. It wouldn't be applied just to one of our collective bargaining units or non-union employees. It would apply to everybody. It's difficult to give you a cost estimate, given I don't know the number of employees who may pursue the program. I do know right now that if you do make it retroactive as proposed, we would have 2 folks who completed secondary degrees last year and 1 individual who's currently enrolled in a degree program. We have a third or fourth individual who's enrolled in completing their bachelor's degree now, but they're enrolled through a professional association where they have a tuition reimbursement, so it wouldn't apply. So just walking through the policy, it would be available for any full-time employee wishing to complete a college degree, associate's, bachelor, graduate program, technical school to enhance their knowledge or performance, job skills, et cetera. And that we believe that would increase individuals' value to the city as an employee. So, maybe somebody is in our engineering department, but they want to take a Spanish degree. Well, that could be helpful to all of us. So, it doesn't necessarily have to be directly related, but, would be useful in our organization in some way. Also could be applied for coursework that was added, knowing that maybe folks don't want to pursue the full degree, but a certain number of classes or courses, maybe in accounting or something like similar would be useful to that employee. So if approved by the department head, a recommendation would be made to the Director of Human Resources and to the city manager. So the way it's set up right now is that the employee would have to obtain a C grade or better in coursework, or a certificate designating successful completion from if it's a technical school. So the reimbursement would be weighted. So the better you perform in your program, the more you would be eligible for reimbursement. So that was heavily debated amongst the committee. Some people felt like whether you get an A or a B, you should be, or a C, you should be reimbursed the same. We debated that quite heartily, and the way I landed on it was I just feel that, you should be recognized for more effort that you put in. So that's why we landed on that, sort of weighted based on performance. So classes would not be reimbursed for employees seeking a second technical associate's or master's degree unless there's some special reason why that would be valuable. That decision to disapprove or approve reimbursement would rest with the city manager and be provided in writing by the Human Resources Director. If an employee can attend, wants to attend some type of schooling and is eligible to receive military or other tuition assistance, then we would ask that they, not go for the city tuition reimbursement. So kind of explore their other opportunities that might be available and grants from other organizations that they might be involved with. This is retroactive to the eligible employee's date of employment. The reason for that, and that's something you all can decide if you would like to pursue this, but the reason for that is there are years where we will be able to financially provide a reimbursement, but in a year if we have a few people in one department apply, that might not be so. So I wanted to make it available for people to reapply in a different year. There might be years where we can't do any just based on budget. What we would hope for is that employees are engaged in having discussions with their department head and their supervisors about their personal plans to pursue education. So this could be budgeted for, in the year previous, but we know that that doesn't always happen. So that's the idea of making it retroactive. Also, this idea really gained a lot of traction after our strategic planning session when we talked about ways we can invest in our employees when we know we can't invest in them in wages the way we always would like to. So that was another reason for the seeking a retroactive date in terms of reimbursement. So if they leave us before they receive a reimbursement and they leave us, the employee within 1 year of receiving the reimbursement would have to pay it all back. Within 2 years, they'd have to pay 75% of whatever they receive back, and within 3 years, they would have to reimburse us half of what they received. We want people to grow. We hope that's with us. We know it's just not always going to be, but we can hang on to them for a little while here, or ask them to repay what we've invested in their education. They have to complete their probationary period and be in good standing to become eligible for tuition reimbursements. So we talked about what good standing meant. If it's somebody on a performance plan, that's probably somebody we're going to hold off on and ask that they focus on their job duties before we would engage in eligibility. But if they're only been with us 6 months, we need them to complete that probationary period, or this policy would ask that they do that. So there is also steps for, once your coursework is completed, how you seek reimbursement. So, how much will this be used? I was asked that by the commission. Hard to say. Many of our positions require a baseline of education, and so in that case, employees may or may not pursue that. Some of our positions don't require post-secondary degrees, but I think as the labor market tightens and we continue to seek the best and brightest people we can, we certainly want to retain those folks, and we want to also have them feel personally fulfilled. And if there's ways they can grow, we want to try to help to do that. So with that, I realize you're getting a lot of this information for the first time this afternoon. So if you have questions, I'm happy to try to answer those.
Amy, I have a couple questions. One, I noticed this is 100% tuition reimbursement, or potentially can be. Are we asking city employees to apply for federal financial aid and trying to offset that, or are they not even going to go through that process?
Well, yes, although it's not written out explicitly, Commissioner Mosier, so that's the intention when I talk about being eligible for other tuition reimbursement through, what do I think we have, GI Bill in there, or professional program in the policy. So that's actually a good recommendation to say that we ask that they first apply for federal financial aid, and if, whatever is not applicable, to be eligible then for the reimbursement.
And then my second question is, are we granting leave time for employees to take these classes, or are they having to do it online?
So primarily all of the, I guess I'm receptive to talk about that. Primarily everyone that I've known that has taken coursework while being employed has done so after hours. With the exception of maybe taking an exam or taking some time off to do some studying, but taking their own time, so taking their own comp time or sick time. We've had folks who are in salaried positions who, maybe they leave on a quiet Wednesday afternoon. They're able to do that if their responsibilities are taken care of, and they use that time for studying, or they use their own comp time or their own vacation time to prepare for a big exam or something like that. I think, it's possible that we could consider a special leave for that. However, I think at this time, I want to encourage folks wanting to pursue the degree, see where it goes. Might be hard to, we would probably see more use of said program if we had a special leave associated with that.
No, I guess I agree. I guess my point of asking that question is if we're paying for that class, then I think it could be the onus of the employee to do it mainly on their own time. I would agree with that.
And I think, it would be pretty hard to manage any, apart from if you're just taking coursework, I think it'd be pretty hard to manage attending classes. You're limited probably to Mount Marty then in person or online, I suppose. But, then how do you get your job responsibilities complete?
Speaking as a current student, I just love this idea, and I think we should encourage people to further their education any way we can.
There's a Richard Branson quote that we just talked about this in another corporate setting, but if you train people well enough so they can leave, but treat them well enough so they stay, is a great, in my opinion, a great model to follow for the city, because we're never gonna be able to compete with the private sector salaries, but what can we do to encourage high-quality individuals to learn and grow and stay? And so this is a great option, in my opinion.
So Amy, there's no dollar amount, it's,
No, there's no set dollar amount. We talked about that as well. Depending upon what you're doing, there could be a wide variety. Someone pursuing, tuition reimbursement for a bachelor's degree is maybe far different than a short coursework in accounting, for example. That is available to, of course, the commission could set a per employee cap on that. That would be up to you if you feel that that's worthwhile, or you feel that that's financially reasonable. There will be times that we just won't financially, or there may be times we won't financially be able to do the full amount or to do that in that year. So we realize that as well. And the policy is written as such that, may be denied because of the budget.
Amy, in your follow-up email that I think you sent out to everybody, you did put together, I think, some guesstimates of the retroactive dollar amount that we'd essentially be saying yes to here tonight. Are you okay to talk about that as part of this discussion?
Sure. I would like to not talk about, the specifics of the individuals, but I do know we have 2 individuals who pursued post-secondary degrees. They have investments of about $20,000 to $20,000 in tuition. And we have an individual right now pursuing a associate's degree. I do not know how much of that coursework is completed, so I don't know if it's a matter of, a couple of classes or actually a full course load, so I don't have that information. And then the 4th one that I'm aware of is pursuing a degree, but that's being paid for tuition reimbursement by another entity, so that wouldn't be applicable to us. That's what I know of. Could there be employees out there that are pursuing degrees for their own edification and I'm not aware of it, or their department head is aware of it? Yes. But I'm not aware of that right now.
This is a program, I think I've mentioned this to you before, probably even in years past. I'm strongly in favor of having this program in place. Definitely think it's worthwhile, and certainly our employees are worth it as well if they want to pursue these higher degrees. The dollar amount, the retroactive dollar amount, I guess I wouldn't even call it a hang-up, I suppose, but I do feel it seems a little out of sorts for us to say yes to this particular memorandum without saying yes to a specific dollar amount that we're also going to give the thumbs up to as well. So I don't know, that's kind of where my head's at right now.
Yeah, and I did not ask for the detailed accounting, just because I wanted to get something to the commission this weekend for consideration. I could certainly do that with all the employees that may be seeking reimbursement if it is a retroactive policy. And I could share that with the commission. And, you know, if you wanted to, for example, table this until you had that, that's a possibility.
I've got a little bit of issue with just it being open-ended and not quite knowing what it is that we're, you know, money-wise that we're talking about. You know, it's, a lot of this information is brand new. And I'd like to know how many folks are looking to, you know, possibly be reimbursed. And moving forward, you know, with the program, is it something that we're going to set a budget for during the budget season? How are we going to determine how much money is going to be in that pot?
Sure. What I'd like to do is if this is something that the commission accepts, is ask the department heads to have conversation with employees about, you know, about their career goals, about their personal goals, about the department and organization goals, and to identify folks that, you know, might be interested in pursuing higher education to meet some of those goals, to allow for departments to then budget into their departmental budget what they think could happen. So it would be, you know, an engagement with the employee and conversation, and I think that will also help our departments, you know, grow and understand, you know, look further into the future as to what's possible in each department. The first year or so, unless you just want to make it, you know, certain start date, if we do anything retroactive, the first tuition reimbursement, we won't have that benefit, but you know, I can tell you that some of the folks that are, well, two of the folks that have pursued degrees, they were encouraged both from a leadership standpoint and to have the opportunity to grow within their department, that they needed to complete at least a bachelor's degree to do that. That's the minimum qualification for the next position, one step above where they are. So my hope is that this also fosters engagement. So when I'm talking to my boss, Al, I can talk to him about, you know, where I want to go in the city, and over time have a better understanding of how to get there. One of the things I think all the department heads have experienced is the fact that people will apply to move forward in our organization, but they haven't maybe done as much preparation because there hasn't been as much, you know, maybe discussion about what all that preparation is and how it can help them grow in their department or grow in the organization, or people want to cross over into different departments to either get a change of pace or to experience something new, but they haven't pursued the coursework or some of the things that they need to do. They're great employees, but they haven't, you know, had that discussion and maybe haven't had that conversation with even the other departments. So my plan is that it will be budgeted, and that amount may vary based on how many are pursuing and what it is, but it'll be budgeted in department budgets when possible. Now, if we would get a brand new employee, that might, you know, may not be possible but they would still have to complete the 6-month probationary period. So it's just this first initial retroactive period that may be a little bit more unknown for the commission. And, you know, this is something that I've wanted to do since since I've been here as a city manager. However, it really became something I was interested in. I was on the cusp of drafting that before we hit flood time and COVID time. It's just something that never got pushed up to the priority. So had a little quiet time, a moment of quiet time this year, and wanted to put together a policy for you all to consider.
Amy, that made me think of a question here. When we say the program is retroactive to the eligible employee's hire date. So I was hired 20 years ago by the city and finished my bachelor's degree 15 years ago while working for the city. I can now apply to get reimbursed for the tuition I paid 15 years ago, is what you're saying in this policy,
yes,
correct?
That's what I'm saying. And that thought to me came from a standpoint of wow, if somebody started with us and they did that and they stayed with us to grow or to learn more, and that's another reason that I thought making it retroactive was a positive thing. I mean, we want to encourage, but I think it's also a reward for the employee. I don't know if we have employees that are like that. We may, but it would be a acknowledgement of that investment and that, contribution.
And if that's the case, I would certainly hope that maybe we can use this opportunity through this discussion here tonight so that we can maybe ferret out those employees to know that this could be something that they would be eligible for. And perhaps if we did revisit this then, to put it into effect at a subsequent City Commission meeting, we could understand what that dollar amount would be. But maybe it would be this is the chance over the next couple weeks. I don't know if we're going to have somebody who went to school 20 years ago pull out their bill from their college's finance office. I don't know, but I guess again that's just where my head is at. If there is an employee who has been with us for 20 years and they were able to achieve that, it certainly seems like they would be eligible. But again, it just, from my perspective, I would want to understand what that dollar amount is that we would all be saying yes to.
So just to be clear, you'd like us to poll all the employees and see what exactly we're working with? Like in terms of
I feel
finances?
that's and I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I do feel that's the responsible thing for us to do here tonight. Because I wouldn't want any hurt feelings if all of a sudden we, if it is $150,000 or $200,000, and it may, but, then again, we can cross that bridge when we get there, and we can probably work together to make it work.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to be clear. I won't be able to do that in a couple weeks. It'll be a couple months probably before we are able to get that together, just with what we got going. But I can certainly do that.
And then I balance that with this open-ended opportunity for employees as well. That I'm totally okay with. I don't see that as a point of concern. It's one of those things where to know that there are employees who are willing to go above and beyond to make the sacrifice to follow through and get their additional degrees, certification, that's something that we would probably do our best to make work year after year.
Well, and I was thinking about the retroactive side of it. For anybody moving forward, there's an approval process where they're working with their department manager, they're working with the director of human resources. And I'm not sure what that looks like for those who are retroactive. The other item is I think the policy is great, and it is probably something that we want to approve and move forward. But do we want to just then at a later point in time come up with the amount that we're approving for a year and work with that? The return on investment's great, whether it's less turnover, increased knowledge of employees, increased loyalty, and easier hiring for new people. I think this is a great program, and this is awesome. So I don't want this getting tabled too long. I don't want to get this pushed backwards in any way. But I do see what you're saying. If we're talking large amounts of money, maybe that's where it's just a budgetary item for the amount that gets approved for this year after year, and look at it 1 year at a time.
I think a lot of us are saying we're in favor of this. We just don't want a positive thing to turn into a negative thing if the bill for this is something that is too much for us to swallow, especially in this first year. And I think if we're going retroactive to when someone was hired, and someone did get it, say, 15 years ago, that we should say, if you're interested in it, you need to come forward this first round. They can't decide next year to come forward. Although, if we have budget limitations, we would just keep them in the queue, I guess, for consideration if they can't be funded this time around.
Yeah, well, this year it's not something that's budgeted. So if this were to be approved, what I had planned was I would put together the information of folks that wanted to apply without names, probably give you the employee numbers, the type of degree it was, and have you act on that reimbursement. I wouldn't if this is, and then in subsequent years, so between now and you approving the budget, department heads having that conversation with their people so they could make some plans. And that probably wouldn't then occur really till 2023 because they'd have to take the coursework then in 2022. So that was my thought. From what I'm hearing, you'd like to know, more comprehensively what we would be looking at from everyone. Because asking everyone and polling everyone is we'll have to make sure we have contact with everyone. Take a little time.
I certainly respect folks' privacy over this too. I don't see it as being necessary that names, grades, anything like that shows up as on a future agenda item. But would it not be the case if we're talking about an individual getting a $25,000 reimbursement? It is going to show up on our schedule of bills. It's not going to be paid out to them as on their W-2 income.
Yeah, it could be understood by looking through the bill. I don't know too many people in town that do that. I know a couple. But, yeah. I mean, it's public information, right? So, yes, it's just a little different than putting it, on a packet item. So I'm with you on that.
So is it something where we can just create this application process, approve the policy, create an application process even for those who are going to be done retroactively, and just approve amount at a future meeting for the year of this is what's going to be paid out?
You could do that.
I don't want to overcomplicate it either. But I want to make sure that we're being responsible.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, what my intention was is if the commission were to pass this, then I would, put together what I know is out there, offer the department heads to get any more information from their departments, thinking that, maybe somebody that fits into that long-term employee who's maybe 10 years, 15 years ago, may pursue it in a following year. And if we have those that aren't budgeted for that are retroactive, do the same type of thing. But we can certainly try to get a good understanding up front of what we're looking at for every retroactive and then move forward from there.
I would say too, under the guise that the retroactive would have to follow the same rules as current, which means they would have to, tell us what their degree was in, and the supervisor, right, would have to say, yeah, that's applicable.
Yeah, they have to do some work here,
Yeah.
They have to say what they've done, what their degree is, how it's been used, et cetera. So just any degree wouldn't necessarily be one that would be reimbursable, unless you wanted to argue that any degree is. We won't get into the merits of that, but.
So again, sorry. Would we be okay approving the policy tonight and then asking you to come back with the dollar amount and then get that approved through the budget so you at least have the policy to be able to bring to the employees?
Yeah, I mean, you can approve the policy and deny or approve the amount. And you will have that authority in future budget years as well.
If we're going to ask the city manager to go to the work of contacting every single employee it's several months worth of work, and we may not approve this policy in the end anyway, seems backwards. I think we need to authorize the policy, have her go to work, and then we approve or disapprove the dollar amount.
Correct.
And there's nothing saying that if something comes up during this and we think the policy needs to be adjusted, it could be adjusted, correct?
Yeah, it would be part of the personnel manual, so it would take a resolution, to amend. I'm going to add in some language in the policy about the federal financial aid because I think it's good language that I didn't think of before. So, but yeah, you can make those changes whenever you would like.
Is there any more discussion? Otherwise, we don't have a motion yet.
I'll make a motion to approve the city policy and ask the city manager to come back to the city commission with a dollar amount for approval at a later date.
Benson, second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more commission discussion?
I've got one more question. With the retroactive versus the, someone, are we going to weight them any differently, like in a given year? If we've got people that are retroactively looking to be reimbursed for their tuition, compared to someone who is looking to pursue something in the given year, are we going to weight it in any direction? What's one way or another? Is the retroactive going to trump someone looking to get a master's in the next year? I'm trying to sort that out.
That would be up to the commission. To me, no. To me, it would depend upon the merits, of the degree and the application. I don't think we're going to be flooded with applications. I think we have a handful right now. I would be surprised if we have a handful more. Now, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be an amount that we can't. You couldn't approve and budgetarily be okay. Now, if we would get into a situation where we'd have more applicants than you feel comfortable allocating dollars for, maybe everyone in the pool gets a partial reimbursement. But again, to make people apply a different year, that might be something the employee would want to consider. Maybe they could only, if they apply 1 year and you set a certain dollar amount this year, maybe there's more money next year, maybe there isn't. It would just depend upon, I guess, the budget situation.
Or if someone, say the funding was not there for them this year, but they wanted to continue with their degree, they continued with it. Maybe that money was allocated by someone on a reimbursement, but the next year they would be eligible to possibly be reimbursed for the money that they spent the previous year. If it's up to the department heads to allocate, where the money is best spent. But I'm just looking
Sure.
for clarification. That's all.
And what I would intend to do in bringing you an amount is give you a department as well. So if you wanted to direct that it be reimbursed, in the next budget year, it could be budgeted into the 2022 budget as well, if you wanted to do that. For each said department.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily going after that as much as I was just trying to get the clarification of reimbursement versus someone who is pursuing a degree actively.
Yeah. I didn't prioritize those. If the commission would like to prioritize someone who's active in school, like enrolled right today, that's up to you.
I know we put you under the microscope a little bit tonight, and I hope that's not seen as, I've heard nothing but support for this tonight. I think we're just struggling with the unknowns here, and we just don't want to make promises we can't keep. That's how I feel anyway. And so please don't misconstrue the questions as a question of whether this is a great idea, and we appreciate the work that staff has put into developing this. Is there any more commission discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item?
Charlie Gross, 1510 Burley. This is a new policy. You've had 30 minutes to discuss it. I'm not opposed to education. I'm not opposed to the reimbursement of education, but you don't know what you're getting into if you go back to the date of hire. And I would exercise caution as you go forward. that, I mean, you're going back 20, 30 years for some of these people. And what I did 20 years ago for my education, I certainly didn't expect the city to reimburse me at that time. And I'm all for educational reimbursement, but that retroactive piece is really troublesome. Thank you.
Two things. Nobody said anything about adjusting for inflation. And also, I was really appreciative because back in my banking days, going on almost 2 decades ago, working with my managers at the time, here you go, here's the list, here's what we'll fully reimburse if you want to go and get your degrees. Commercial lending with Charlie Gross. That was my first interaction with Mr. Gross back in the day.
Thank you, Mr. Gross, for your feedback. Any more discussion? All right, Al, roll call, please.
Moser,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunig,
No.
Sarda,
Aye.
Mybom,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 2 under new business is consideration memorandum 21-72 regarding the downtown Yankton facade grant recommendations. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second?
We've got a motion and a second. Dave, do you want to walk us through the recommendations?
As long as you don't ask me to talk about YouTube comments, I'll be fine with talking to you about whatever. There were, once again, this is the 6th year of the program. A couple of years ago, you set the dollar amount at $30,000 in matching funds. So the committee, which is made up, and we're very thankful to have Crystal Nelson from the Yankton County Historical Society, Brennan Ewald from the Meridian District, Deb Speck from the Planning Commission, and Mason Schramm from the City Commission involved in that committee along with some staff. Went through and reviewed 12 applications. There are a number of factors that they look at very closely. Obviously, location in the downtown Meridian District area, whether or not it's of historic appropriateness as much as possible. There's actually some geographic considerations too to make sure that all of the projects aren't in one spot or another in downtown. So the 3 projects that came back with a recommendation for funding are at 211 West 3rd Street. That's the Lilycrest building for some upper facade work and brickwork, and that's for $7,000 in funding. 300 West 3rd Street, that's the big white building, the George Langlette building on the northeast corner of 3rd and Cedar for $13,000. And 444 West 3rd Street, that's the Buell Cleaners building, and that's for stucco repairs, painting, awning repairs, and the cool part of that is the historic neon sign restoration project. So that's the 3 projects the committee came up with to recommend funding for the amount available in the grant program.
Any questions for Dave?
I do have one, and I know this was a hot topic of debate when we agreed to open this back up this year as far as what to spend. In the committee discussions, because we said up to 30,000, was it that, what made the committee decide to spend all 30? Was it the valid applications, or if you could just give us a little leeway on that, because I know it was a pretty hot topic.
Yeah, great question. There were actually a couple of other applications that were pretty close in the running. And one of these applications specifically was larger than this, but it had multiple phases and components. So trying to figure out how to make that work with their project. We had some additional correspondence with that owner, and they were able to come up with a concept that phased their project in so it would fit within that budget. Otherwise, one of these recommendations would have been a little bigger than this, even if possible. Yeah, so great list of projects, and a couple other projects at least that we would have recommended if there was more money available. Yep.
Can you elaborate how much money you would have needed?
That's a really good question. So of the total projects, there was a funding request for $111,000.
Dave, can you update us on how the projects are going from the previous allocation? Because I know some of those are underway.
Yeah, you should be seeing some activity at those locations. We're not that far into the construction season yet, but we haven't heard anything other than they're moving along as scheduled. Building materials prices and what happened with that has played a factor in some of those, the timing of some of those projects. So, but our typical cycle is that they get wrapped up by fall, and that's where we're at with the previous cycle, and if this is approved this cycle too, we'll be on the same timeline basically.
And those not selected to receive the grant this year, do you or other staff members meet with them to kind of help them kind of navigate the process moving forward as far as maybe why they weren't selected and what they could look at for future years?
That is another really good question, because 2 of the recommended projects here actually went through that process. They were previous applicants, and with a little coaching and some redesign, we're able to come up with a more competitive application.
Excited about this slate of projects. Thank you, Dave. Any more commission discussion?
I just, sitting on this group, I was impressed by the number of high-quality applications, and we could have easily, in my opinion, funded multiple more than the 3 that were, if we approved tonight. I think the evidence is very strong of the success of the program in years past. If you look at the buildings on, like the Capitol Street, for example, the tanning salon building, those are some great examples of what's happened with this program that, we had 3 high-quality applications that were that could be approved tonight, so it's exciting for the downtown.
Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Roll call, please, Al.
Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunig.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 3 under new business is consideration memorandum 21-70 regarding a bid award for liquid asphalt. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Roll call.
Weber.
Aye.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunig.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 4 under new business is consideration memorandum 21-74 recommending approval of a grant application and associated engineering agreement for the design of Phase 1 of the North Taxi Line System and Access Road Project, including environmental and bidding services. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Dave or Adam, is there anything you would like us to know about this project?
Having the potential for 100% grant money, not only for this non-construction portion of the project, which is design and environmental services, but also looking forward to actually doing the physical construction project next year. We're hopeful of having a higher than normal grant percentage. This is kind of our first step of doing a project out away from where our business is out there, where the terminal building is and all the corporate hangar is and the other hangars. This is that north development area that's been in the airport layout plan for maybe 10 or 12 years now, and we've talked about it in the budget in an out year for a long time. So we're pretty excited to have the opportunity to move forward with some planning and investment at the other end of the airport. And that's the end of the airport that if we ever do have the opportunity to recruit for aviation-related business, we got a better chance of being a little more competitive in that recruiting if we get that area opened up with an access road and some taxi lanes.
Thank you for that update, and thank you for your work towards securing the funding. Any more commission discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Roll call.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunig.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. Number 5 under new business, this is the City Commission acting as the Board of Adjustment, and this is consideration of Memorandum 21-73 establishing May 10th, 2021 as a date for a public hearing to consider a variance from the front yard setback requirements in a B2 Highway Business District for 3007 Broadway Avenue. Jeff Coster is the owner. Can I get an introduction?
Introduced.
Thank you very much. Number 6 under new business is consideration of Memorandum 21-76 recommending approval of the Yankton Youth Soccer Association's initial field development work on City of Yankton property. What is your pleasure? We want some explanation before we make a motion, or are you ready, Mason?
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Amy or Dave, or can you provide some explanation?
Sure. Honorable
Thank
Mayor,
you.
members of the commission, we visited about this a little bit prior, but now we'd ask the action come before you for you to determine whether or not you would like to assist the Soccer Association, but also assist us in the future as well. So the National Guard has agreed to do a project with the Soccer Association on the land that the Soccer Association has under a long-term lease with the City of Yankton. The National Guard is going to be helping them get ready for prepping their fields and doing some of the base work for their overall field development long-term. In order to do that properly, they needed to engage with some engineering. As you know, that's part of an overall site. So the drainage and topography and what happens in one area affects the whole area. So they've engaged with Stockwell engineers to do some sort of baseline site work so that they can perform and give the proper direction to the National Guard. Some of that engineering work will benefit the property long-term, the public, I guess, use of the property or whatever develops there in that property in the future. And so they've asked, discussed with me, would the city be willing to pay for a portion of that engineering that would benefit sort of the public right away and public side of the site. And in working with our engineers and discussing with Stockwell engineers, their total bill, I believe, is approximately $30,000 or $40,000, and they're asking $36,742, and they're asking our portion to be $15,000. So this would include some basic grading plans, surveying, et cetera. So this is work we would likely have to do in the future. It makes sense to partner, in my opinion, to partner with Soccer now for the future so they can get their work complete accurately, and we'll have that information to go forward with.
Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Roll call.
Brunig.
Aye.
Sarda.
Aye.
Mybom.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Mosier.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Benson.
Aye.
Mayor Johnson.
Aye. Motion passes. There's no other business on tonight's agenda, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss contractual litigation and personnel matters under South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2.
Benson, so moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Thank you. Take care, everyone.